Welcome to Keep Going, a podcast about failure and success, hosted by John Biggs. Every week, we talk to an amazing person about a time they failed and what they learned. And remember, when you're going through hell, keep going.
Welcome back to Keep Going, a podcast about success and failure. I'm John Biggs. Today on the show, we have Neil Markey. He's the CEO of Beckley Retreats. Welcome, Neil.
Hey, John. Thanks for having me.
So Beckley is, it's basically, you guys have retreats in Jamaica and I believe Netherlands as well. And they're obviously psychedelic retreats because you wouldn't be on the show otherwise at this point. I've gotten pretty far down the rabbit hole. But why don't you tell me about Beckley Retreats first?
Yes, but we can't talk about Beckley Retreats without talking about Amanda Fielding, who's this extraordinary woman who unfortunately just passed in May at 82, peacefully with friends and family around her in her castle. She studied psychedelics for her entire life and formed the Beckley Foundation in 1998. And so Beckley Retreats is a bit of an offshoot from the Beckley Foundation. And it was an extraordinary thing to have the honor of being part of the continuation of Amanda's legacy. You know, she didn't start the foundation really as an end state. You know, she knew that we needed to do research and public policy reform, but it was really a means to an end. Really, she wanted to get it to more people. And so Beckley Retreats is that kind of has that mission, you know, get these experiences to more people safely and accessibly.
So from 98, it was basically sort of like a research organization?
Yeah, it was a nonprofit foundation that was doing research on the benefits and risks of psychedelics and also doing public policy reform. So she was going around and lobbying a lot of different governments to change the drug laws. And she was quite successful. Big, she's been called the hidden hand of the psychedelic renaissance. She didn't get a whole lot of press along those years, but yeah, it was really instrumental in this whole field. So it's pretty cool to be continuing her legacy. She really is one of the most magical people I'd ever met. I mean, wow. Just like real amazing person.
And how did you get involved?
In Beckley, I was an officer in the military, then grad school, then the corporate world for a while, and I had got a little burned out in the corporate world and didn't want to do corporate stuff anymore. And had a lot of my own personal psychedelic experiences over the years, a lot transitioning out of the service. I was kind of in this liminal space looking for something to do that had more meaning. And then I was in Mexico and was teaching meditation again and working with the Huichol, which is a local indigenous people that are there. And I had friends that were coming down and I was connecting them with the Huichol. And so it was starting to kind of piece together programs, but it was like super early days. And then I met Amanda's son, Rock, through this guy by the name of Dan Love, who I went to graduate school with like 10 years earlier. I reached out to a woman that was a bit of a mentor of mine at grad school. And she was like, I don't know what you want to do. Like, cause I was explaining to her what I was doing. And she was kind of like, sounds strange. But she's like, I think a guy that you went to school with actually is doing something similarly strange and you guys should talk. And Dan was one of the founding partners of Beckley Waves, which is in some ways like the family office for Amanda's family and the philanthropists around her. And so it was kind of right place, right time.
Tell me a little bit about that burnout experience. I mean, it's you were active military, and then you went to grad school. What did you go to grad school for?
Business and international affairs. Mm-hmm. And I joined the service after 9/11. I was in undergrad, and then September 11th happened, and it was like a DNA switch in my body, I swear. And I joined joined the officer program, and then went in as a lieutenant and went to Iraq once and Afghanistan twice over the course of like 6.5 years. And then, I went to grad school, and it was in grad school where I was like, there's some stuff that I'm not doing super well right now. And then I had a similar experience 6 years later coming out of the corporate world because I had forgotten to take care of myself and I was in a bad environment again. So I've kind of had this like up, down, which is pretty normal for a lot of people too.
So I think this is important. I mean, I think talking about this specific experience is kind of vital. What is you were in a bad place in the corporate world, right? So what did that feel like? What did you notice?
Well, it was the same symptoms that I was having when I was coming out of the service, but not as bad. But like my sleep was starting to get bad. I noticed myself was like more irritable, more angry. My relationships were starting to struggle. I was drinking alcohol more than like I knew I should be. I was out of shape. Yeah. And just this kind of like feeling of discontent, So, yeah.
Now, I'm sure there's like you're a rare bird. Right? You escape that discontent. What would you say to folks who might be feeling those same symptoms and are trying to get out of it? What are some of the tricks that you used, or what are some of the tactics that you used?
Yeah, I mean that uncomfort. It's your body is trying to give you a signal, and unfortunately, oftentimes we can just bury the signal with like working more, or eating more, or drinking alcohol, and like kind of numbing. Yeah, I mean, it's tough. I mean, it's just it is tough if you're in the kind of like rat race mode where you don't feel really great. You know that something's amiss. It can be really hard to take that leap and make a significant change. Especially, I didn't have a family at the time too, so it was easier for me to kind of walk away from work. And I think it's really tough for people that have, maybe they've progressed in their career, but their expenses have gone up with their income, and so they're still riding pretty thin. It's hard to jump, but I don't know, maybe I feel like even if you're not like consciously aware of it, I think your subconscious is like well aware of your financial situation, like how many months you got of burn, like your body knows that. And I think you've got to like work on that so that your body knows that you've got some space, and then try and give yourself some space at some point in time. But I think you've got to solve that financial piece a little bit before it becomes realistic to, really create some space and, explore other things.
I mean, I think that's like a refreshing viewpoint, because I think traditionally we're talking to like psychedelics folks, they don't talk about that burn rate at all. But for you to come in and talk about that burn rate, especially in terms of, hey, I want to do something creative with my life. I don't want to sit in the cubicle, or I don't want to take direction from somebody I don't respect, that kind of thing. To understand that is super valuable. What do you recommend for people who would like to follow in your footsteps, who would like to, I don't know, run indigenous meditation classes?
Yeah, I mean, I would say, go for it, learn and practice. I think that, anybody that's familiar with meditation will know that it's not a rational thinking exercise thing. It's more of a state of presence. And I think that the more you practice, the better you get. And the more you get into that nowness zone with a good bit of gratitude and connectedness, then really amazing things can show up. And, there's people that are studying this, that like this idea of serendipity and coincidence and can be improved through your state of being. So take good care of yourself and try and be in that state more often. And everybody knows that feeling, when you're connected. And I think that for me, I didn't leave the corporate world being like, I'm going to go do retreats. It wasn't on my radar at all. I'd had a lot of experience myself, but that was a pretty far jump. But what I do think I did was I created a lot of space. And I think that's really important. And we don't do that enough. And then if you create space and you're still, it can, so then you're allowing for new things to come in, and you might be surprised what comes in without your kind of forceful effort. And that's kind of what happened with this for me. It kind of presented itself, and it was a great fit.
How do you survive? How do you feed yourself when you're going through that stillness mode?
I had saved money. Yeah. So, I was fortunate. I'd worked really hard for 5 years, and then I just lived cheap too. I've always kind of been that. My family is that same way too. So, part of it, I went to Mexico, and the cost of living there is so much more. And so I was able to kind of get real cheap, which I think is healthy to do at different periods, regardless of your income, like minimalize, get back to basics. I remember in that last phase of my corporate career, the highest income I'd ever made, but I wasn't happy. I was quite unhappy, and I had something probably coming to my house like every day from Amazon, because it's just like you're in that cycle of dopamine hit, feeling empty, dopamine hit. And so, but then I got to Mexico. This was, 5 years ago. And I was staying at this place, and they didn't have Amazon. And I didn't buy anything. And it was just so funny to me to be like, what the hell was I buying every day that now all of a sudden I don't need? Because I was getting filled up in other ways. I was getting filled up by being in the ocean and surfing and hanging out with, different types of people that balance the central nervous system instead of stimulate the central nervous system so much.
That sounds like actually very refreshing. Like to not crack open a box every day
Yeah.
to get your dopamine. Interesting. We have to do that for like Netflix next or something like that.
Right.
Tell me about the retreats. How do the retreats work?
Yeah. So we run what we would call more like integrative health programs that use psychedelics as a catalyst for change. And we do them in places that it's fully legal federally and locally. And we use psilocybin mushrooms mostly. And all of our programs have a similar structure. It's a digital preparation, an immersion with a group in nature, and then a digital follow-up. And in that digital prep, we're teaching a lot of these basic well-being practices. So, to me, meditation's foundational. We teach breath work, mindful movement or yoga. We give some light instruction around healthy diet, just trying to bring like more awareness. And then we bring the group together a couple times. They get to meet each other. They get to meet the facilitator. So we start to build trust. And then the in-person portion for the signature program is 5 nights. And in those 5 nights, you do 2 psilocybin sessions in the groups. But then we're doing all of those practices that we taught in the prep, but now we're doing them together in nature, beautiful estate. It's kind of a digital detox. So you can kind of really commit to the work. The sessions, the psilocybin sessions are done in a group. Everyone gets their own custom amount of mushrooms. We make a mushroom lemon ginger tea. It's a discussion between the individual guests and the senior facilitator in terms of amount that they're going to take. But it's within a predefined range, and it's around what you would see in the clinical trials in the United States. And the sessions usually last 5 to 6 hours, and we play live music. It's like a quite beautiful presentation of this work. It's different than doing it in a doctor's office in a sanitized environment. Mm-hmm. And so we really appreciate that. Beautiful food, beautiful locations, just like a nice, kind of premium experience. You can get massages and do one-on-one sessions. And then on the back end, we do 6 weeks of digital integration. We start that first week. And what we do, is pretty widely understood is after these higher dose sessions, the brain, body, central nervous system is in a more malleable or neuroplastic state. So this kind of increased potentiality for change, which is amazing. But you have to do something with it. And so we're really big on trying to encourage the new habit formation because we believe that that's kind of how you'll get the sustained benefits over time. Is if you get people to, take better care of themselves and do daily meditation and be a little bit more thoughtful about what they put in their bodies and things like that. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of the overview. But then we do shorter programs. So there's a couple different permutations of that core program.
And have you, what are some like notable things that you've seen in people who've gone through the thing?
Yeah. Many people will go back and say things like, I just feel more grateful more often. Like these like moments, we've all had them. We're just like, wow, I'm really lucky, and like you feel that. But then you can also have long stretches where you don't feel that, especially if you're living a certain way. And these experiences have some way of kind of allowing you to feel that more often. People will report better improvements in their relationships, not being triggered as much. We'll say things like, so-and-so used to, or, my spouse used to, this thing they did would drive me nuts, and now it doesn't bother me. Or I can see it, and I know that it bothers me, but I don't like react to it. So it kind of creates some of that space, similar to how meditation can help. We have a lot of people that will say they've gotten clarity on kind of like where to go in life. They wanted to like make a decision, and they got clarity on that decision. People process loss, so loss of a career or a loved one, and they want to honor it, but like move forward. A lot of people coming down for that. One of the neatest stories for me personally that is, we still don't understand like kind of all the mechanics, but one of my really good buddies, former Green Beret officer, super skeptical of this work, but came on a program like 3 years ago. And, he was super high functioning guy, like very successful, but definitely had some things still deep in there, as many of us do. It takes a long time. And he came through the program. I was on site with him. Another one of our buddies was there. He had, you could just tell he had this like pretty amazing kind of release and opening, tears. And then I spoke with him the next week when he got home, and I was like, "Hi, how's it going, man?" Like, and I could hear that he was a little emotional, and he was just he's such a guy's guy, and to have like to see this in him it's just really sweet. But he said that he didn't, plan on this, but he had, I think his son was like 4 years old at the time, around that age. And he said that it always bothered him that his son wouldn't come to him in the evenings and his son only wanted to go to his mom, and like he would try and bribe him, and nothing worked. This week he went home. His son started coming to him in the evenings, and so we don't know why, but like something changed in his central nervous system that his child could pick up on. We do know that, you know, we're electromagnetic beings, and we can pick up on each other's central nervous systems. So like, how fascinating is that, right? His son just started naturally gravitating towards him after the week with us. Things like that. A lot of people report kind of spontaneous, reduction in urge to drink alcohol. They don't plan on it coming in. They leave and they say, I just don't want to drink alcohol anymore. So lots of good, positive things.
That's fascinating.
Super fascinating.
Yeah. So sounds like you escaped the rat race, and now you get to go to Jamaica all the time and take mushrooms.
I mean, in some ways, yes, and I can't help but laugh at myself sometimes because I'm back in an intense role.
Oh, okay.
But I love it. I believe in what we're doing, so like I'm happy to like put my heart into this. I also think that, at least for me, to each their own. For me, the big thing was working really hard. I've always worked really hard, but like working really hard in an organization that like fundamentally I don't necessarily believe in. That's where there's a lot of disconnect. I'm happy to like push and hustle for something that I really believe in. Actually, I get a lot of energy out of it, you know? But yeah, the retreats business is not an easy business. It's not like a SaaS software or something like set in it. It's like the opposite of a set and forget business.
Interesting. All right. Well, we'll send people over there. Beckley Retreats, BECKLEY retreats.com. So check it out.
Yes.
5 days laying around and eating a bunch of vegetarian food sounds like a blast, though.
Well, we do protein too, so
okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Like a performance diet.
All right. Sounds good to me. I need all the performance I can get. All right. Well, Neil, thank you for this. It's been
absolutely.
It's been relaxing to a degree because it's nice to hear from somebody who's kind of like popped out the other end and made it.
Thanks, John. I appreciate that. I'm figuring it out on a daily basis.
Sure. You don't have to be super humble about it. I think it's fairly noble. All right. Well, there we have it. This has been Keep Going, a podcast about success and failure. I'm John Biggs. We will see you next week. Thank you for listening to Keep Going, a podcast about success and failure. Remember, Keep Going is entirely listener supported. If you're listening to this, please head over to keepgoingpod.com, where you can subscribe to the podcast for as little as $5 a month. This is a labor of love, and every little bit helps. Thanks for listening.